Hello everyone, and welcome to the next installment of the No Name Meme, which I just learned now has an official name, so yay, names! According to James of the book club Chic, who hosts this meme, the new official name is going to be Friday Fragments, which is fitting, you know, because we're reading fragments of books. So yay, we got a name! Yay. So congratulations to whoever came up with that name, and hope you enjoy the book that you won from James of the book Chic. So, to get right to it, the fragment that I am going to read to you today is going to be from The Red Umbrella by Christina Diaz Gonzalez. Isn't that a pretty cover? If you haven't seen the cover of this book, go to your store, pick it up. It is absolutely gorgeous in its detail. I love it. So, this book takes place in the 1960s. It starts off in Cuba, and it's about a time in history that I don't know very much about. It deals with Castro coming in and taking over the Cuban government and all the huge drastic changes that are going on in this time. Changes which the main character Lucy's parents are fully aware of and their implications, but Lucy is just your average teenage girl. She just wants to go to school, well, not school, but she wants to hang out with her friends. She wants to talk about the latest fashions and gossip, and she reads the papers which are put out by the government, and so she kind of believes all the propaganda, and she doesn't really filter through the layers, whereas her parents can actually see a lot of the deeper implications of all the revolution's changes. And so the part I'm going to read for you is at the very beginning of the book, and it starts off, you know, shortly after the schools have been closed in Cuba and the revolution is really taking shape, and there are soldiers all over the place, and Lucy's parents made the decision that she and her little brother are going to stay inside and they're not going to go out anywhere because they don't want anything to happen to them. So, Red Umbrella. Sorry. Each chapter, which I really like in this book, starts off with a newspaper headline. So that newspaper headline that starts off this one is "Crime to have foreign money in Cuba now. The Valley Independent, May 6th, 1961. After 2 full days of drenching spring storms, the darkest clouds parted, and I began to campaign to recover my freedom. Please, Mama, Frankie can go too. We'll get groceries. Don't you need something? Anything?" Mama grabbed a pencil and began making lists. I grinned. Finally! I was going to escape from house arrest. Okay, vámonos! Mama folded the paper and tucked it into her skirt pocket. Call your brother. What? No, I meant I'd go for you, not with you. The moment I said it, I braced myself for a tongue lashing. I could already hear the words, "Que falta de respeto! What disrespect!" Mama simply raised an eyebrow and continued to fasten her light blue pillbox hat into place. I followed as she walked to the hallway mirror to put on some lipstick. Please, I need to see my friends. What if they open the schools tomorrow and I miss my chance to have fun? I can't take being cooped up anymore. Lucia, por favor! It's barely been 3 days. She popped her lips together. You act like you haven't seen them in months. I might as well be. You and Papa treat me like a baby. I'm 14. Kids my age are leaving home to join the revolution, and you act like I'm still a little kid. Pretty soon you'll make me hold your hand when we cross the street. This time Mama was not going to let it slide. She spun around. Lucia, you watch your tone. I will not have you disrespecting me. When I was a child, I would never speak to my mother in that way. You have no idea what your father and I are going through. Turned and rolled my eyes. What they were going through? What about me? My only consolation was knowing that someday I'd be free of all their stupid rules and worries. Frankie, let's go. We're going into town. Mama pulled back the curtain, revealing the overcast sky. She took a deep breath. I know you're upset, Lucia. Look, if we have time, we'll go by Machado's pharmacy and see if they have any new fashion magazines. I shrugged. I wasn't going to be bought off that easily. Trip to Machado's for a lollipop or paper dolls worked when I was a kid, but not anymore. Frankie ran down the stairs, skipping the last 2 steps. "All right, we're finally out of here." Mama smiled and grabbed her large, bright red umbrella and tucked it beneath her arm. I hated that umbrella. It was like carrying a big stop sign that made everybody pause and take notice of us. A ridiculous umbrella for a ridiculous woman. Why couldn't she bring a plain black one? Why did she insist on embarrassing me with that thing? "It's not even raining anymore," I said and pointed outside. "Well, just in case," she answered. "Mejor precavar que tener que lamentar." It was one of Mama's favorite sayings. Better safe than sorry. I followed her out the door. Just because you've had that umbrella forever doesn't mean it's the only one you can use, you know. I like my umbrella. It's the only thing I've ever found that's big enough to protect us all from the rain," she said as Frankie jumped over the puddles lining the sidewalk. "But red is the color of the revolution." I hoped this would make her reconsider. Mama stopped walking to look at me. "No, Lucia. The revolution may have taken over a lot of things, but it doesn't own a color. For me, red is a symbol of strength, and that's all it will ever represent." So that is from The Red Umbrella by Christina Diaz Gonzalez. It wasn't the original passage that I had chosen, but yesterday I was reading an article on the LA Times website about the swastika quilt that is being put on display in the small museum. And the quilt was made in like the early or late 1929, late 20s, sometime around then. And there's a lot of uproar nowadays, well now, for that putting up, because everyone tends to associate the swastika with the Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler ruling of the 40s. And this quilt was made before then, and the swastika is this ancient symbol, and it just, this little passage just kind of highlights to me that, you know, symbols are, you know, they become such deeply associated with certain events in history and time and place, and that might not always be their original purpose. So the Nazi Germans, they don't own the swastika symbol, and the Cuban Revolution government doesn't own the color red. And so I really hope that that museum puts up that quilt, because from the picture that they showed on the website, it looked really pretty. Craftsmanship on quilting is just amazing. And so, yeah, this is a great book to read. I highly recommend it. It's about it's about history, love history, and yeah, I don't know what else to say, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Go read Red Umbrella, great book.